is an oral history interview conducted for the Witness to War Serving a Nation project at Nauset Regional High School on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. For the sake of this interview, please state your full name and community in which you now reside.
I'm Edward Averi, and I reside in Rentham, Massachusetts, formerly from Walpole.
How old were you when you first enlisted?
I was just turned 18.
Did you have any other family members in the military?
Yes.
Who were they?
My brother, who was older than I, retired from the Marine Corps for 24 years. I was lucky to do a little over 24 months for me.
How did your family react to your decision to enlist in the military?
Oh, that's a little complicated because my mother passed when I was 15, which left just my father and I. And as the first immigrant Italian family member, you know, the family life for me in my teenage years was like I was alone, which allowed me to do a lot of things that I shouldn't have been doing. But family life in general, you know, I was a spoiled brat. That's what they all said anyway, because I had 3 older sisters and my older brother. Yeah, so that's about it.
What was the last thing you did before leaving for the service?
I was in high school. My first big mistake. I quit in my junior year with 4 weeks left of my junior year over some stupid incident that occurred. And so yeah, so that was because my class was 1952 and I left in 51. Yeah.
Why did you choose to join the Marines when you left for the service?
Well, as I indicated, it wasn't popular with my older sisters that I was leaving, but if I joined anything else, I think my older brother, who was in the Marine Corps, was at that juncture, he was a 11, 12-year member when I joined. So he's one of those unfortunate guys who went through World War II, he went through Korea, he went through Vietnam. But that goes with the territory when you retire from the military.
Describe some of your responsibilities in the Marines.
Well, basically, all Marines, officers, generals, all down to privates, the first thing this might sound terrible, but unfortunately, you're well versed in techniques of killing somebody. I know that may sound stupid, but the fact is, military is there for wars, and that's really a primary thing. Then what you do is after training, there are different. You don't get much of a choice in the Marine Corps. They tell you where you're going. You might wind up being a chef or a cook or a truck driver. 90% stay is infantry, the guys who do the real tough work. I was assigned to duck school. You know what the ducks are? They parade around Boston when they win a championship, they ride in the duck boats. You're not familiar with that? Oh well, I'm surprised. It's an amphibious truck because it was to solve a problem of once things came off the ship, it was difficult to get to maybe where the troops were that you were delivering there. Like we carried guns, but we could go in from the water, we could leave the ship on the water, drive onto the beach, and drive inland. So I was an amphibian truck driver, and I was the lead driver, and I had an assistant. And that's about it.
Where specifically were you stationed for your
Well, the entire, that jumps around. I went from Paris Island to North Carolina. Then I went to Camp Pendleton out in California, which is advanced warfare, and trained again to en route to Korea. So that was really my only duty station, was Korea in the U.S.
What was it like serving in Korea?
Wasn't very nice. I mean, Korea, it's the forgotten war. Nobody thinks of it. But it started basically in '50, and ironically, it ended with a truce. It wasn't a surrender or anything. That's big today in the news, with North Korea and South Korea and all the problems. I don't know if you want a little side story there. In those days, we had an insurance agent that would come every week to collect. And when he went to the house, and I was now gone, and he knew me, but he told my father, "I understand Ed's leaving. He's going to Korea. I was going in the Marine Corps. He'll wind up in Korea." And my father said, "Well, he can't hold a job." He said, "It'll be over pretty quick if he goes." So when I got home and Mac told the insurance guy told me that story, I said, "Well, that was pretty cool," because I was fortunate. I came unscathed, but we were the first returning troops when this thing ceased. We were on the high seas, and we got to San Francisco, and it was one of the greatest welcomes that I could ever imagine. But that's the end of it, really.
What did you feel like when you were coming back from that? When you
Oh,
came back
it
from
was
the war?
pleasure, absolute pleasure. I mean, it wasn't. I was fortunate. I was not on the frontline basis of being shot at every day. My situation was, again, we did a lot of transport of bombs, ammunition, food, any supplies, because again, we could drive out to the ship and bring it in and deliver. The worst part of it was delivering wounded people. They were to the hospital ship that was out in the bay, because they're not pretty sights in all cases, and that's dramatic. But I'm just happy to have come home alive.
And what did you think of the people you were fighting against?
I don't know how to really answer that. I mean, I don't like war, obviously. I'm not even sure, because now I'm only just 19, and I wasn't too versed in the political issues going on at that level, but all I know is my country was over there helping another country, and that was about it. Because the people, the Koreans themselves that I was involved with on occasion, they were just nice people in trouble.
How did your opinion on war change after being involved?
Unfortunately, it hasn't changed. I mean, unfortunately, it's something that's always going to be here. There's always some country or some group that it just takes a war. But usually, the U.S. has never started a war, to my knowledge. We've always gone to the aid of countries that had war and needed help. And some countries that we were allies with, and of course some we really didn't know. And in this instance, they had a pact between the Far East, which were North Korea and South Korea. NATO decided they should go over and help the Southern Korea portion. The country is always one, Korea, but then this made it, split it into two, the North and the South. Unfortunately, it's just a terrible thing, because my grandson had 2 tours in Afghanistan, and that's the, quote, a war that's been going on now for 9 years. And any time you lose, I guess they're up to now like 3,000 deaths. That's quite a sacrifice. And it's just, unfortunately, the way it's been since the country really got created. I mean, you know, the Revolutionary War, we had a battle with England. And it just, unfortunately, through the years, it's gone into other things, yeah.
Describe your living conditions.
There, or? Well, when I first joined, Korea was at a pretty high level of activity. And Parasylum, which is the basic training course that on the East Coast that the Marines go to. And I was in a situation where it was just so crowded with people. So they have barracks. We slept in tents. And we were out, there's a huge area called the parade ground, where the company does drills and so forth. But it was sectioned off, and there were tents put up, and that's where, there were at least a couple of hundred tents out there with like 5 guys in each tent. And the other lucky ones were in a hut. You know, they had bathrooms to go to, take better showers. So that was that was the lousy part. California, well, actually it was all tents from my first day till good gravy, this is crazy. Until I came home from Korea, believe it or not. I mean, that was 2.5 years. Most of my life was in tents. In Korea, we did have a station that had Quonset huts. Now that's just an aluminum building that's shaded this way and maybe 60 feet long. But you're in there with, 30 guys, all running for the same bathroom, all running for the one shower that was there. Coming home in San Francisco, we did have barracks, and then when I came back to North Carolina, we had barracks. And then for me, it was go home.
What was the most thrilling experience?
Thrilling?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing thrilling about war. I didn't have any thrilling in it.
Or maybe scary?
That's another issue. I'm just trying to think, can I think of something that was thrilling? I really can't. I had a couple of situations that years later were kind of thrilling, but they weren't at the time. I got a letter from my brother, who is a master sergeant, which is the highest rank of a listed person. And when I was in boot camp and mail call came, they handed you one letter at a time. And when I went up to grab it, you had to run and slap it out of his hand. He pulled his hand back and I stopped. And he wanted to talk to me because he wanted to know, who is this bum? And he was looking at the return address and it said Master Sergeant B.E. Averi. Oh, so you think he's a big shot? They gave me that's the Marine Corps at basic training. A lot different today, and really a lot better as I understand it, and what I see on it's like the History Channel. In those days they put their hands on you, which they can't do today. The language was more than colorful, and they're really not allowed to use bad language today, which I think is obviously good. And just for you young ladies, though, let me add something that really wasn't what it is today. There were women Marines. Today, when I see on the History Channel the training they go through, I make no bones about it. They go through a harder training than I did. the girls today. So that's just quite a change over the years. That situation for her career itself, taking the wounded back to what not back to, but taking them out to the ship is kind of nasty. From a not a war-related battle scene thing, I went over there as a corporal, which is 2 stripes. I came home with 1 because through a little encounter with my sergeant, I may have won the fight, but it cost me a stripe in the meantime. But I wasn't planning on being a long guy like my brother, so I really didn't care. But other than that, I was just fortunate enough to come home. Oh, I don't know if it's important. My worst experiences, believe it or not, were when we arrived in Korea. There's a base where everybody goes, and a friend of mine that I went through boot camp from Quincy, Mass., Frankie Dodd, he was a sergeant at this point. And when he greeted me there, "Hey, how are you?" He gave me some advice. He said, "Look, at tonight, you don't have quarters. It's going to be in the tents, and there's no racks being in a bed." He says, "So get a stretcher from the jeeps and sleep on that, and which only has feet on it like that." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because when the rats come running down at night when they hear a bomb blast, they'll run right over you. And I hate rats." And we did. That was a terrible experience, which had nothing to do with why we were there. And then about the 2nd or 3rd night, I started getting assignments. I was assigned to guard duty. And again, I'm still a kid, right, at 18. And it seemed like I drove forever. Guy drives a jeep with 3 guys, and he drives to different posts to drop a guy off and pick a guy up. Finally, I'm the last guy off, and I don't know where the heck I am. All I know is this black pitch tack, and it was a bunker, which is a hole essentially, and it had a machine gun in it. I didn't have to walk in, didn't have to go anywhere, just stay there if should people come up to work. Well, over in Korea, I don't know if they still do. When we were there, when a Korean dies, you don't dig a hole like make a grave that we do in this country, but they're buried on top of the ground, and they put mounds over them, so it's these rounded things, and that's someone, they bury him sitting in a chair. And a couple of blasts panicked me after one, but that would light up the sky, and that's when I could see these things, and I suddenly thought they were people. And I started shooting them. I did. And the guy that was away from him, but he heard all the commotion going on. And the sergeant trying to drive, this was about an hour into the thing. And he comes driving up in the Jeep. "What are you doing?" And I said, well, when the dawn came, I saw they were just mounds of earth. I had a lot of fun shooting it. But that didn't go over too well, though.
What was the longest time you went without coming home?
Well, it had to be from I went to penalty, and so it'd be February to August. It'd be almost 2 years.
And what did you miss most about your home life while you were serving?
Well, my situation of being by myself was such. It was just my dad and and I guess I miss my wife, my current wife, because we were friends. in high school. And I missed just the people I hung around with. I guess there wasn't anything as far as living goes. I had a close relationship with particularly one sister, and she worried more about my being there. And I'm honored to think that her second youngest son is named after me. So he's Edward Averi, as I am. She was thinking bad things might happen. But I enjoyed playing sports, but I was also getting to the age where, sports weren't in my life. I was going to either get a job or, anyway, I got a job by going in the Marine Corps.
How did you keep in touch with the people you left behind?
Believe it or not, it took, let's see, I got out in '53. I'd say about, in the '60s, I was reading a magazine. It was a veterans magazine, and it was announcing a reunion being held by a group. It happened to be a group of amphibian truck drivers. And I go, wow. So I wrote a letter to the guy. The guy was from Pennsylvania. He and another friend started it. And I went and we had reunions. So for the next, for about a 10-year period, we had annual meetings. And I had one in Boston, which they thought was really good, doing things that they didn't do on the other things. And my wife really enjoyed it because they were just nice people. And I still communicate to this day with a couple of them, but all by email. The thing is, and I used to, because one of the guys that started it, and I would get to be real good friends, they made a bad choice in that you had to have been in Korea. Now we had guys that we went to school with doing the same job, but they went to Europe because to support troops over there. They weren't eligible. I mean, they had not the similar job, or not similar conditions, but they essentially were doing the same job. But they insisted, no, if you didn't go, you can't come. So then, because of that, really, people, of course, started dying off, and over a 10-year period, now we're all getting old, and it's kind of fizzled out. And we miss it. Like I say, I still communicate with a guy in California and a guy in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, there's 3, and then in Indiana. Yeah.
What did friendship mean to you in the military?
A lot. Because the situation, like, you gotta be a friend with a guy who's going to hopefully save your life. I mean, it isn't like friendship on a social basis where, oh, we're going to go to the movie together, or we're going to go dancing, or we're going to. No, it's you got. Actually, it's being a friend plus. I mean, he's going to lay his life down. I'm sorry. Let me get a drink of water.
Watch out for the
Whoops.
microphone.
I can't get it up. That's okay. I'm sorry, girls.
That's all right.
So anyway, where were we? I don't know. It's, I can't.
were you allowed to pack when you left?
All my clothes, uniform, that's all I had to get home with.
What were the most challenging weather conditions you faced?
Weather? Aboard a ship. We were in the outskirts of a hurricane when we were going through training down in up to North Carolina, Newport, Virginia, wherever it was. And it was just rather rough for a guy who wasn't used to ships. A lot of guys got sick. Fortunately, I didn't, but yeah, otherwise, I was lucky the career. When I got there, did not have the same weather conditions in terms of winter. While it was extremely cold, it didn't get down to 10 below zero, where these guys had the ground to sleep on and eat, and it was terrible. Yeah, its career, in fact, is noted basically for the frozen chosen, it's called, and that was before my time. But I had a kid in my neighborhood who lives now in Waltham who was over there at that time, and he's a hero. He's the kind of guy you want to be talking to.
Which places?
My problem was that I lost a couple of good friends. I'm sorry. It's been a long time. I'm sorry. What's the question?
What was your favorite aspect of your occupation?
That's hard. We're talking military-wise, right? I guess being responsible for the duck and the guy, my assistant. But that's really a hard chore over there. I don't know what else to say. Of course, when I lost the stripe, I lost a little more command because instead of having 3 ducks under me, I only had my own. But I don't know if that's significant.
And which places were the most interesting to serve?
Now, from a social standpoint, yeah, that's probably. I got back from career in August of '53. I went over there in July of '52, and I was scheduled to get out on May 21st, '54. Well, now I'm back in down North Carolina at Camp in June, and they really don't know what to do with guys like me because you had to get out in a few months, so you can't go on a long thing. But they were going to have a maneuver. Oh, why would you? I knew that question earlier. I was in movies because they were going out, which they do frequently when you go on training. You go on simulated attacks and all that kind of stuff. And we were going to Puerto Rico. Now, people would love to go to Puerto Rico. Well, I wasn't wanting to go to Puerto Rico. I just got home from career after a year. And so I told the old guy, I'm not going. Well, yes you are, and I did. But you can go on YouTube or whatever, a movie channel, and call up Battle Cry. And it's a story of the Marine Corps, and it's in underwater conditions. Much to my surprise, and I enjoy telling it, and I told the kids that you can't see me, but I can point out to you exactly where I was and how they filmed things. And we're, quote, filmed as a group being marched down the street to the combat zone. And when that ends and it takes place, everything goes on, which now we're relieved of and we're coming back. Well, now, of course, these guys are all darkened and their dirty clothes and everything. It was us. Because when we got there, we had to do was get dirty and roll around in the mud so that it looked like we were in combat. And we came back and said they filmed the same area, but except we're now sitting. Yeah, right. As we were going down, there was a group dressed looking like that, hollering at us, calling us boobs and insulting us. Now we were in that role, insulting the guys, the next group that was going through. That was kind. But your folks might, but Ed Averi was in it, and oh Jesus, I wish I get pictures of. I can have pictures of it. But the three big names, Ed Averi. Geez, what the hell is it? Oh, one kid that was interesting. He was an active Marine, but he was an actor, and he spent his duties in that movie. But he was actually a Marine, but he was part of the whole movie, you know, the good part of going to the casino and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that was interesting. Or, how do they do things? There's a picture, there's another craft, landing craft, similar to us, amphibious, that carry troops, and it comes out of the ship, and it can get to the beach in the front top. So you've probably seen some things like that where the guys come running out of a boat. The things on the beach, right? Sand all around. And the guys are in there and it's like, okay, now, when the 8 goes down, you got to go running this way, blah, blah, blah. There's a guy on the ladder chair with a camera. And he's doing this with the camera. The things aren't moving, but it gets the appearance of the craft is moving through the water, because then that's superimposed on water. But in the meantime, they're just sitting there calmly or walking just up, which I thought was kind of neat. And there's charges, cylinders like this that have water in it, and they're charged. So there's things like bombs are dropping in the water spurting up. You know, it's like 5 feet away. I just thought it was interesting, you know. Now my son being in that type of business is kind of interesting, the way they do things.
And our last question is, if someone you knew were going into the military today, what advice would you give them?
Well, I went through it with my grandson, because he wanted to be a Marine. And I told him what my experiences were, and that's not an easy trip. And if you can take the time, when he was in high school, he joined, quote, I forgot what they called it, but every Thursday evening he would go to Brockton, a PT and class, run by the Marine Corps. And the deal was that when he graduates, he's going to go in the Marine Corps. And he kept telling me he wanted to be a medic, he wanted to be a medic. And I told him, geez, we don't have medics in the Marine Corps. The Navy supplies the medics. And one day, well, when graduation comes, the Marine guys, they're ready to welcome him, all that. He tells them he joined the Navy. I couldn't believe it. They weren't doing this in my time. He joined the Navy on the condition that he would go to medical school. And they agreed, provided that if he didn't make it, he'd come into the ranks and do whatever they want. Well, he went and he did. And I'm very proud of him. He became a medic, but he was assigned to the Marine Corps. And so that's different than being a sailor, you know. So, I don't know, I guess just to be careful and, you know, be aware of it all the time. And he is. He served 2 tours, came home unscathed, did a lot of nasty work, but I guess that's probably the best thing. It's not the worst thing going into the service. guys like me needed it because, again, I was a smart street kid, and who knew what might be down the road, you know. But they taught me a lot of just self-discipline and, yeah. Yeah, so then I did really well in business, and we enjoyed our life. We went all over the world traveling, and except my wife gets mad. We only went to Ireland twice, and we went to Italy 7 times. So, but she likes the food over there. That's about it.
Okay, thank you.
We is done. Okay, and I'm sorry, but